Hello traders, I wanted to share something I've been working on recently, which is a different view of the markets based on some learnings that I've had recently around themes in the market and rotation of those themes. Now, this is something that I hear them talking about in the chart guys community all the time, rotation out of one sector and into another. But I've never before recently seen traders base the stock picking on the themes that are currently in focus. And so obviously, one goes hand in hand with the other. But it was something that I realized was a bit of a gap for me where, I'd find out that some sector was running and I might focus on a few of those names for a bit. But it was something that I did after the fact. It was not something that I was anticipating. I wasn't looking for where the sector rotation might be. And so I thought it would be a good idea to begin tracking what are all the themes in the market that I'm interested in. And then over time track, what stage are those themes in overall? And like, are they in an uptrend? Are they consolidating? Are they in a downtrend? Are they early in that stage, or are they middle of the stage, or are they late in the stage? And then finally, which ones are currently in focus? In other words, which ones could be setting up for some trades right away versus, other ones that might be uptrending, but they're kind of far and away and nothing I can really trade. So with all of that in mind, I built this user experience in my trading app where I can add new groups, give them a name, description, what state they're in, what stage of the state, any sort of notes I want to make about the theme, and then add, important symbols to that theme. And so I can just sort of quickly at a glance see, okay, here's financials. Inside financials, I'm looking at XLF, JPM, MS, GS, BAC, WFC, and SoFi. And that's not an exhaustive list by any stretch of the imagination. It's just, here are the ones that I'm looking at when I make my judgments on how things are going with that theme. And this is a little bit different and a little more challenging than just looking at individual stocks, because individual stocks could be, within one theme, there could be one stock that's going like crazy or two stocks that are going like crazy, and then a whole bunch of other ones in consolidation mode or even in a downtrend. So how do you decide, what stage the theme overall is in? And that's something that I've been struggling with a bit. But, I think it's part of the process just to recognize, oh, this theme is currently mixed, or whoa, this theme is all bullish, or whoa, this theme is all bearish. Or this theme is, steadily, all names are steadily consolidating. It's important to recognize when there's a mixed thing happening within a theme versus when a theme is strong or a theme is weak or a theme is just resting. And so that's sort of what I've been doing here. And again, this isn't an exhaustive list, but my goal here was just to be able to update every day, go through, as I'm looking through all the names that I'm interested in, go through all of the different themes and update this list. And then out of that, try to identify which ones I might be interested in trading this in the coming week. And so that's when you see these little stars that are here, that's what the stars are for. They're to help me choose which ones I want to focus on this week. And so I'm going to talk through a little bit about how this came together. I have a watch list, for example. That's where everything begins, is in my charting platform. So I use TradingView, and I will flip over to that now. And so here I have a watch list I've called themes. Within that watch list, I've got a bunch of, again, it's not an exhaustive list, but it's a ton of different themes that I'm interested in trading. And these are all collapsed right now, but I can expand them all, and you can see all the names within the different themes. Now, this is a watch list that is, I'm always working on this watch list. I'm adding names under themes. It's also a little challenging to do it this way, where you have one massive list, because sometimes one name might belong in multiple lists. And so I'm always sort of finessing and moving things around as I learn more things about the different stocks, and maybe they fit better into one theme versus another. Or maybe there's a new theme or a sub-theme that I didn't recognize before, and I've got to sort of put it all in there. But I actually look through this list many times a week. I look through the entire list of names on here, which is very, very long. And I have it is a publicly shared watch list, so I will post this in my notes for this video. So if anybody is interested, you can take a look at this list. Sadly, the way that watch lists work in TradingView is I can share this with you, and you can like export it. I think you can even make a copy of it somehow. So you could have a copy of it, but then you can't just like subscribe to my list and then just see my updates, sadly. So you'd have to come back and get it. But I wish that actually we could all work on a list together. I would love as a community to be able to give people rights to manage this list, and then have people work with me to maintain it, because I think it's super, super valuable. Anyway, so I digress. This is where I get all my names from. And when it comes to putting things in here, I'm just grabbing a few of the key names and putting them into each theme within this page, and then using those as my guide, really. Quantum I actually have in my downtrend list after this weekend's review. Let's take a quick look at that one. Quantum is at the very top. That was the first time I identified that a theme was going crazy, and I began this themes list, so that's why it's at the top. Doesn't mean it's in order of priority. So we had this move up off the lows, which was not a 50% retrace. I'm not even sure what that retracement was. Let's just have a quick peek. It was a 382 retrace. And since the move up off this higher low, we've pulled back 50%. And a bit of a bounce there. So QBTS not looking terrible, trying to hold on to that daily EMA 12 here on that bounce. RGTI not as strong. It retraced most of the move from that daily higher low, looking quite weak. QMCO, this one actually doesn't look too bad, but it's just sort of holding daily EMA 12 and had a nice solid red candle here on Friday. QUBT not looking strong at all. This is clearly a downtrend. Low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, and then we got a bit of a higher high, and it's trying to turn, but I look at this overall as like a bear. This could be a bear flag down here at the top of this huge move, right? So I look at this like something like this, just sort of bear flagging it up here, and then could go down. That's not strength, not the strength that I want to see. And then we have IONQ. Again, this is holding the daily uptrend, but not looking that strong overall. And IBM is a tough one. I have it in this list because they are like the kings of quantum, but I don't really bucket them in the same way with these other quantum names that are, IBM makes money. It's a real company that makes money. And these other companies are startups, basically. So I don't really, it's in the same list, but I don't really bucket them in the same way. So when I'm thinking about quantum on, like as a whole, I'm thinking about it in terms of those startup style names. Now, really quickly, if we go to the weekly time frame, this might make it more clear on why it's in a downtrend to me. It's in a weekly downtrend, scouting a weekly lower high. IONQ for sure. QUBT, weekly downtrend, scouting lower high, bear flagging. QMCO, this is sort of sideways and mixed, but still high, low, scouting a lower high. RGTI, high, low, scouting lower high. QBTS, high, low, scouting lower high. So I'm not looking at these names bullish. Period. I mean, I just don't see the upside on the weekly time frame. And if I'm going to be swinging names, I want to get something that has legs that can go. And so that's why I put this, for me, in downtrend. So let's talk about the ones that I have here for focus for this week. So financials was one in my weekend review that I was really interested to see. Wow, I'm actually quite bullish on a lot of names here in financials. So let's take a look at those. Okay, here's my financial section. You see I've got a blue flag on GS, WFC, XLF. And so those are the three I was calling out. Let's take a look at them. Back to the daily time frame. So look at this move up. Like, this is a very, very, very bullish stock. How have I not really looked at this before? It's like I just kind of ignore banks for some reason. It is not a daily EMA 12 rider, right? It's and when I see a stock like this, the thing that I think is, look, it's holding the 26 okay with a few breaks below. I bet you this is a weekly rider. Let's take a look at the weekly. Yeah, this is a weekly EMA 12 rider. Look at how well it held at all these times. Tariff bottom here, it didn't hold. And then been holding above weekly EMA 12 or testing it and holding above ever since. So that's a weekly rider, very bullish stock, super strong. And if we go back to daily, it's pulling in right now after a really, really nice leg up over this zone down here. So I look at this and I'm like, oh, wow, there's like a couple levels here that are key on this pullback. If it did lose, like drop below the daily EMA 12 on a pullback, that's some spots where I might be interested. But that's a really great looking stock. JPM, consolidating here at the highs and generally in a really nice uptrend. Again, this looks like it might even be a monthly rider. Let's take a look at weekly. It's holding weekly 26. Let's take a look at monthly. I mean, look at that thing. Wicks to the downside. This is what, a 2-week rider maybe? Yeah, 2-week rider. It's a 2-week rider. And it just had this long consolidation here, which is kind of bullish, right? So look at the daily again. And yeah, we've got a range. We're trading in here and it's trying to break out of it. So this is something that is very interesting to me. Again, I don't trade these names very much, but I look at this and I'm just like, whoa, there's very clearly a level at the top and a level near the bottom. Worth watching and trending up. So yeah, I look at this name and I like it. I just don't see any setup right now. WFC, this is Wells Fargo. Look at that hold of daily EMA 12 right at the prior high. You can't make this stuff up. Like, why have I not been looking at these names? And this is a great example of why I should be paying more attention to themes, because if I had been doing this sooner, I would have been seeing this stuff. Look at that test and hold and rally. Beautiful. XLF. This one I do regularly watch XLF, and I was aware that we were trading in this range for a long time. And I was aware on Thursday that we'd broken out of that range. And this one also, like, this was a beautiful hold of daily EMA 12, but I wouldn't have been too confident. I mean, I guess it held it once. This was a second hold. Maybe it'll hold it a third time. Come back in and test some of this at some point. But either way, like, this is strong, and I need to be paying attention to stocks like this. And you can even see, look at this balance from back here. It's just beautiful. It's just beautiful. This is why on this page, financials got the star. And, I look at this as, especially on XLF, this is a long running uptrending stock, but like it's been consolidating sideways while a lot of other names have been rallying higher. So the fact that it's starting to try to break out, like a back test, I'd be interested in a back test for higher, because we've had a lot of sideways here for months. And so it could be beginning another leg up. No, I'm not predicting anything. I'm just by the chart pattern. I'm just playing the price action. So I thought it's worth noting that one. Healthcare. So I actually got LLY this week. LLY had a beautiful stair step down after this really nice rally up. And so I've been watching for this stair step for a break. And then on this day here, which was last Thursday, it gave an awesome dip after some overnight news. Just quickly take a look at this. So here, this was the day's stair stepping down. We're zoomed into the 5-minute on LLY. This was the prior day high. And then we had a gap up overnight on some news. And so I put an anchored VWAP at the low of the entire move. And I thought, after this move up, I'm looking for it to hold above this low. And I'm open to the idea that if it pulls in at all, I could get long with a stop below that low. Just a daily time frame trade, just trying to intraday make it happen. And I thought, if we pull back into this AV WAP, I could get long somewhere in that zone, because that basically everybody who got long down here is sort of healthy above that level. And then right off the open, we dumped, and it was like a 30-second EMA 12 rider down. And I ended up buying somewhere down here around 990, I think it was, on the break of that 30-second rider down, and then it rallied hard out of that. And I sold partial, and I'm still holding, and I held through this entire pullback, and I held through all the chop on Friday, and I'm looking for upside. I wanted to get all the way back to the highs. So that's a great example of, I was aware that healthcare had been resting a little bit, but at the same time that this was doing that, on the same day, I had a similar setup on XLV, which is also healthcare. So this was Wednesday. We had a nice big rally up, and then I did the same thing where I put my anchored VWAP on there on the low of this day, and I was looking for a pullback in here somewhere into prior day range, and I didn't get it. And so I never traded XLV that day. It never gave me the opportunity. It never gave me a setup, so I didn't trade it. But I'm aware that on the daily time frame, this is a very strong sector. Look at this move up. It's just beautiful. And so I'm watching this, and I think this is probably a weekly rider. Yeah, weekly rider. Look at that test of weekly EMA 12 there. Didn't even get to it, but nice bounce off the low. So getting a little sharp here to the upside, getting a little extended. You can see weekly RSI was overbought 2 weeks ago, so it needs a bit of a rest. But yeah, beautiful sector, and it's moving, and like even UNH is looking really good here on the daily with this sort of rounding bottom here. I know some people in chart guys got long on this day, but some of them might have gotten stopped out because we had another pullback. But of course, it rallied right out of there again. UNH can be a bit of a tough one that way, but this is a nice looking turnaround here on UNH. So that's why healthcare is in there. Now biotech, you'll notice I only have one name on here, which is XBI, and that's because I don't trade individual names in biotech, because they have these insane moves where trial results will come out and they'll dump 50% or stuff like that, and I'm not in for those moves. And so what I typically do is I'm aware of names in biotech that are moving, but for the most part I focus just on the ETF, which is XBI. XBI itself can be a bit of a challenging thing to trade, but it's a beautiful looking chart. Let's take a look at it. Look at this. Oh my God. This is a beautiful daily EMA 12 rider. It had a little bit of a dip below there, and then again holding ever since. Just what a turnaround. Because forever, as it was doing all of this, I was watching it, and I kind of gave up somewhere over here when it started dumping. When I should have been focusing on it, I was giving up, and now look at it go. Oh my God, what a recovery. And so, yeah, this is one that has my focus. I want to see if this daily rider thing can continue. I do have one trade set I'm looking at, which is this double top. So we have a higher low, and we have another potential higher low, and we're bumping up against this ceiling here of Thursday and Friday that has a top on it, basically. Yeah, you can see here, there was the high of Thursday, and we were unable to get above it on Friday, but we basically set an inside day. So I don't know, are we going to break out of this and continue to the upside? Maybe we could put a stop down here if it's a daily time frame trade. But yeah, if this is going to continue, it's going to break those two tops and push up. And so that's something I'm looking at for next week. And then finally metal. So if you look at gold, came all the way back up and like just barely tested these highs and then pulled back a little bit. I'm in NEM. which also had a really big pullback. I bought NEM on this day here with a stop under this low of day. And so I'm really hoping this thing can continue. I have sold enough. I'm basically down to a runner, and I'm just going to leave my stop where it is, and either this continues up with my runner or not. If it does come back in, I am interested in catching another test of daily EMA 12 somewhere in here next week. That would be pretty nice. So this one is also on my watch list, and gold and silver have been just like, silver is out of control. I feel like silver needs a rest, because you can see the curve, like how long can this curve continue to just accelerate to the upside before it just needs a climax. One of the things I try to look at is the number of ATRs that a stock is from the 50-day simple moving average. Yeah, this thing has, it's 4.28 ATRs from the 50, which is a little extended. That's the blue line down here, the aqua blue line. So it's a little extended to the upside. I try to get it closer to the 50. You know, anywhere under 4 ATRs is probably acceptable to me. But as soon as you get above 4 ATRs away from that 50-day moving average, it's just a little too stretched. So not as interested in silver right now. Interesting to see where is gold. Yeah, gold is only 2.58 ATRs from the 50. So it had this nice consolidation and is still close. So that's why, even though silver's been the one that's stronger, that's why I was more interested in the gold names, and specifically why I got involved in NEM, which had that really beautiful tightening range here. So on a nice tight day like that, on a stock that's uptrending in a theme that's uptrending, it's just a nice place to get long with a nice tight stop. So I have other things here that are in uptrends, but I'm just not interested in them right now, because maybe they're mixed in some of the names are strong, some of them are not. You know, I hope this is helpful. I hope this makes sense to people. It's something that is kind of new to me, but my general idea and concept behind it is, what I've noticed is that stocks tend to move in groups, and you often see that, you know, if there's a theme like quantum and one of the names starts to run, then the other names in that sector will also start to run. And so when you trade in a group like that, you increase your probabilities of being successful in your trade. And so I'm always looking for any kind of edge I can get in the market. And if I can look at a theme and see that the names in that theme are setting up for a move, or maybe one has started to go, then that increases the odds that the others will follow. And those are the kind of things I want to focus on. I want to give myself every possible edge that I can get. So I hope that makes sense. I hope this is useful. And I wish you guys happy trading. Hey, if you like my indicators on TradingView and you like the content I'm producing here on this channel, please remember to like and subscribe.